Hello friends, this is Dr. Banerjee from History series. Today's topic is History, a Conceptual Study. This is 1.1 of Unit 1 for TYBA, Special Paper 3. So now the question is, what is history? History is the study of life in society in the past, in all its aspects, in relation to present developments and future hopes. It is the story of man in time, an inquiry into the past based on evidence. Indeed, evidence is the raw material of history, teaching and learning. In Greek word, historia means inquiry or knowledge. We can thank several ancient Greek scholars for the way we think about things today. Our conceptions of philosophy began with Plato. Our notion of science is thanks to Aristotle, and history, as we know, it was first developed by Herodotus. Herodotus is also called the father of history. Good historians are great detectives. History changes as we gain new information. That means new evidences. Histories utilize scientific and technological advances to further their quest for the truth about past events. In a Los Angeles Times article entitled, "How Scientists Are Solving History's Riddles," Joe Nickell, American historian, a present-day sleuth of history, and many other historians are now applying scientific and technological advances in solving historical mysteries. DNA testing, satellite imaging, and advances in undersea technologies are all utilized today to uncover new facts about our past. The Journey of Man, Spencer Wells. Spencer Wells, a noted geneticist and molecular scientist, utilized DNA testing of the Y chromosome in men to rewrite the history of our origin and genetically documented our migration from Africa to Australia to Middle Asia and to the Siberian Arctic and on to North America, beginning about 50,000 years ago. Based on Wells' findings, we are all descendants of the San Bushmen of Africa. According to the genetic research, they are the oldest people in the world, going back maybe 60,000 years. They have genetic properties which nobody else has, so they support them at the root of the human tree, and basically means we are all descendants from the San people. So what does history means to you? History is or should be an attempt to rethink the past. Collingwood, 1945, is particularly interested in this concept of history. It is an inquiry into what happened in the past, when it happened, and how it happened. It is an inquiry into the inevitable changes in human affairs in the past and the ways these changes affect, influence, or determine the patterns of life in the society. This is the catastrophe theory of 6th century. noted writer David Kaye's book Catastrophe, an investigation into the origins of the modern world, theorizes that a natural disaster caused changes during the 6th and 7th centuries in the Christian world that included the end of ancient civilization and initiated what is now known as the medieval era. According to him, a catastrophic event occurred about 1500 years ago that caused extreme climate changes which resulted in 2 years of cold, then a drought, followed by famine, plague and death worldwide, and that changed the course of history. Kaye's theory was supported by Mike Bailey, a dendrochronologist who dates tree rings to track worldwide climate changes. One ring is equal to 1 year, so 55 rings on a stump equal to a 55-year-old tree. Bailey discovered that tree rings went haywire in the middle of the 6th century, suggested a global crisis. In the same way, carbon-14 dating of ancient ash deposits around the island of Java indicate that the volcano Krakatoa erupted about 1500 years ago, sending up huge clouds of volcanic ash into the atmosphere, which triggered a nuclear winter experienced globally. So, history is an act of both investigation, imagination, and that seeks to explain how people have changed over time. Historians use all forms of evidence to examine, interpret, revisit, and reinterpret the past. These include not just written documents, but also oral communication, objects such as buildings, artifacts, photographs, and paintings. Historians are trained in the methods of discovering and evaluating these sources and the challenging task of making historical sense out of them. History is a means to understand the past and the present. The different interpretations of the past allow us to see the present differently and therefore imagine and work towards different futures. It is often said to the queen or mother of the social sciences. It is the basis of all subjects of study which fall under the category of humanities and social sciences. History is also the basis of the study of philosophy, politics, economics, and even art and religion. No wonder it is considered an indispensable subject, the complete education of man. This is the slide in short about the sources of history. What are the sources of history? Written or inscribed sources, artifacts, graphic or visual sources, and oral literature. We can give the example of Rosetta Stone. Before it is discovered, hieroglyphics, that is the Egyptian writing, nobody could decipher the language. The stone is carved in 3 languages, hieroglyphics, Latin and Demotic, and archaeologists used the other languages as a key to decipher the Egyptian writing. History is a record of the past, artifacts and myths. Sometimes discoveries are made that give us a new look at history. For example, the Trojan War was thought to be a myth until Henrik Schliemann discovered artifacts at the ancient city of Troy. With the discovery, the Trojan War was no longer a legend but fact and part of the history. So, who make history? It is not only historian, but many other professions people also contributed in the subject of history. Historian writes and studies the records of the past. Cryptographer deciphers the meanings of ancient writings. Archaeologist studies the remains of ancient civilizations. Anthropologist gives a background on the cultural history of ancient people. Paleontologist provides data regarding fossils of plants and animals that primitive people encountered. Geologist analyzes fossils and give an estimate on the condition of the earth during the specific historical era. These are the popular definitions of history. V.S. Smith says the value and interest of history depend largely on the degree in which the present is illuminated by the past. Rapshan says history is a connected account of the course of events or progress of ideas. Jawaharlal Nehru says about the history is nothing but the story of man's struggle through the ages against nature and the elements, against wild beasts and the jungle, and some of his own kind who have tried to keep him down and to exploit him for their own benefit. So in short, history is a meaningful story of mankind. Mainly it deals with the human world. There is a small difference between history and historiography. Historiography is the close study of history and how it evolves, reaches different conclusions and changes over time. It is largely concerned with the methods and approaches of historians, the men and women from whom we receive history and historical understanding. There is no single understanding or truth in history. Different historians often reach different conclusions about the same period, same event, or same issue. There is a very easy definition or explanation has been given by John Lewis Gaddis in The Landscape of History, how historians map the past. He says, when you study historiography, you do not study the events of the past directly, but the changing interpretations of those events in the works of individual historians. So in history, the key concepts are sources, evidence, continuity and change, cause and effect, significance, perspectives, empathy, and contestability. So why do we need to study history again and again? To understand change and how our society came to be, to learn from past successes and failures, to understand and respect one another, and last but not the least and the most important point, to develop our critical thinking skills. We should develop our thinking skills about the events which had happened. That's it for now. Till my next topic. Thanks for watching. Please like it and subscribe my channel. Thank you.